All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mind Your Buffalo podcast. I'm your host Ravikant, aka the Buffalo Intellectual. Welcome to a pure veg episode. Food is in the news, baby. Food is in the news. Everyone's obsessed about food. People are killing about food. It's a crazy time to be alive. Um, I'm tired. I'm tired, like because the more things like kind of roll on, the more they don't seem to change. It's the same story that we keep seeing over and over again. I think news coming out this week from Haryana. Where else? The great state of Haryana. I think it's Haryana. It will be embarrassing if it turns out it's not Haryana. I've just been a little out of things. Work has been like, my full time job, the actual job that I have. It's been a little crazy there. It's never easy. Academia now, higher education now, private universities have just become this absolute crazy kind of uh, space where most days as a faculty you don't know, as a professor or an administrator, you don't know whether you're a professor or a salesman. Like the line gets blurred in between. I have to go and like try it. Everyone is expected, not just me, everyone in every institution. It's not even about me and where I work, but it's all of these places. You're expected to market your course, and like there are all these strange conversations. Everything is about maximizing and funding and sustainable funding growth, this that. It's a little bizarre. I feel like I'm back in 2008 or 2010. Like I had just finished my MBA and I entered the corporate world, and I had that feeling like I was like, this is not the life I want to live. And I ventured into academia, and now, like 15 years later, academia has become exactly like that. So I've just been a little burnt out, a little out of it. So I just like I haven't been reading the news as closely with the minutiae and the detailing that I usually do. So forgive me. But does it really matter if it's a great state of Haryana or the great state of Uttar Pradesh or Rajasthan or wherever? The story is like there's some young men who were out and about, group of friends to adventures. Don't you like it? Boys will be boys. Boys want to do fun, some adventures. Boys will have fun. In this case, boys decided they're gonna save some cows. Moo, the lesser bovine, the cow. So these people decided that they're gonna like save some cows, okay, and like um they assume that some this has been going on for a while, like this idea that some of these Gaurakshaks will gather a group and then like find some like poor Muslim, you know, cattle trader or whatever. Maybe they're like, and then they lynch them. They lynch them, like not arrest them, not kind of like, confiscate the animal, rehabilitate the animal, if at all that is a priority, if at all that is something that requires that kind of vigilante intervention. उसमें जा ही नहीं रहे हैं, उसमें हम जा ही नहीं रहे हैं, बिकॉज उसमें अब जा ही नहीं सकते, ठीक है. I still like having a life. I still like having a job. I still like being out of prison, and I still like not being beaten up by a mob. So why the bovine requires this kind of vigilante justice? Why? में हम नहीं जा रहे हैं. ये हो रहा है. Things are happening in the world. Okay, I'm just reporting. Things are happening in the world. पता नहीं क्यों हो रहा है. We can't discuss. लेकिन हो रहा है. So what are these things that are happening in the world? Apparently, people, boys, will make groups with their friends, and boys will go out into the world and catch Muslims who are transporting bovines, not just any bovines. Buffaloes are fair game, but cows. And then if they find the cow with the person they have caught, some good old fashioned lynching might happen. Lynching sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, I've never been interested in being part of a lynch mob. Um, it's a little too murdery for me, but I'm guessing it's a lot of fun because everyone wants to be a lynch mob. Like it's always been a thing in history, and even in this era of modernity and rationality and the internet and the Bitcoin, people still love themselves a good lynch mob. And it's not even like you have to physically do it. Now we can do digital lynch mobs. That also happens, like this whole idea, like the frenzy with which people like gang up and just like, take someone down. So I'm guessing it must be a lot of fun because people seem to do that a lot. So in this case, there was a mistake. Okay, as happens with things which appear to be a lot of fun, they tried to catch this Muslim cattle trader. Turns out he's neither Muslim nor a cattle trader. Turned out to be a young Brahmin boy. Tragedy, young fellow. I think he's 19, 20 years old. He was killed, and then later on they discovered that okay, there were no bovines to be saved, and he's not Muslim. So the Gaurakshaks apparently said, "Oopsie, we did a oopsie. My bad. So sorry. We didn't mean to kill the Brahmin boy. Oopsie." And I think, like, I think it was a child, it was a kid's mother. Like, I saw, like, some clip on Twitter where she had a very sensible take. Like, God bless the woman. Like, she's going through a bad loss. Trying to talk about these things in a facetious way. That's what I do. So if you're offended by the tone, just save it. Okay, like save your offense. I'm bored by people who get offended, like constantly all the time. That's tiring. But like the point I was trying to make here is like your offense or not offense has no bearing on the tragedy that has befallen individually, collectively, and this whole phenomenon that has been going on, which seemingly in front of our eyes, right? So and nobody literally has been able to do anything meaningful about it. Like some journalist outlets, I think News Laundry did a very interesting deep dive on Gaurakshaks, Monu Manesar, in that thing. I think Caravan magazine has done something. There's some good media work. Some people have written books on this stuff. But like activists have tried to raise their voice, but by and large, it's just something which is going on, and like the courts, the political establishment, the opposition, like nobody's like putting their bodies in the fray. Nobody's like putting themselves in the mix and saying no, this is going to stop. It's the case with like a lot of things. You can also make that argument about the epidemic of sexual violence against women, and you brought into the news, exacerbated by the recent Kolkata medical doctor case. Even in that case, like call it an epidemic. Means epidemic is like a disease which is just sprung up. It's not an epidemic. It is how it always is. It exists, it runs. This is not something which is just emerged out of thin air. This is a product of the society that you have set up and you participate in. It is not accidental. It is not like COVID-19, which just emerged from somewhere. Some would even argue conspiracy theory. COVID-19 also didn't just spring up, it was a product of the society that we have set up. But I don't have like these I don't like listen to Chinese conspiracy theories. Like some of them are fun to listen to, but not usually. But like, and I'm going around in circles, coming back, like scooting back. What I'm trying to say is like nobody is putting the bodies on on the line. Like nobody's like putting their political career or professional career on the line. Stuff and other stuff like this just continues to happen and happen and happen and happen till you're numbed by the tragedy, till you're till when enough people die in a pattern, then it just becomes that it's a pattern. Like, the same op-eds, like, I'd read, like, these rag newspapers, like, Indian Express or Times of India. Like, they'll have these rag headlines of some writer putting outrage. What does this mean for our society? Matlab, this means for our society. तुम क्या लिख रहे हो बार बार सेम आर्टिकल लाइक एवरी few months or every time there's a suicide or a caste suicide in a university or a gaurakshak lynching or some sexual violence case, the same kind of articles come. Then people will write things, including myself, hacks. Like, I'm also a hack, like, I'll also get, like, but I'll write in low level rags, like, like some quint will come to me and say, can you write an article? Like, God bless those people. But, like, yeah, it is what it is. Like, Indian Express will go to, like, some even less talented writers, like, Pratap Banu Mehta and all, Fleen Auntie and Leher Kala or somebody like that. Like, just absolute inane people, Shobha Day. Like, people, I don't know why they still have these columns and these things or whatever. And like, in even hacks like myself, and we'll write the same article. I'm tired of listening to this. Like, yeah, I mean, it's done. It's done, right? And I, like I was saying, like in that clip that I was seeing, like the poor kid's mother had a very interesting and probably a very sane reaction. Like, the mother who just like mindlessly lost her kid, and she was saying, like, these guys are saying sorry because they thought, like, they assumed he was a Muslim, but, like, it's not right to kill Muslims either. Like, why are you doing that? Like, that's not the point. And she's saying, like, you can't go around killing people, and even if they're Muslims, you can't do that. And that should be a base level argument, except, like, the standards of sanity and civility in the society have collapsed so drastically that seems like something path-breaking, like coming from this woman who, in the middle of a tragedy, is still finding her humanity, and, like, is still able to contextualize that, look, it's not about the fact that I lost my kid, right? That's an irreparable tragedy. The problem is not that I lost my kid. The problem is, why the hell are you going around killing people? Like, why is this a thing in society that this can just happen? And that's a fair question. There's Coca Cola, by the way. Last few episodes, I've been drinking, like, I'll have a beer or a drink while doing my episode, and then, like, you guys will come and DM and say, okay, don't drink alcohol, it's bad for your health. Like, like, as if I care about my health. Like, no, no, we care about your health. Your voice is important. No, my voice is not important. It's really not important. Nothing is important. Okay, it's dumb. But, like, people will come and be like, uh, someone will come and say, people look up to you. Do you really think you're setting a good example? Here's a clue. Don't look up to me. Okay, I am telling you constantly, I'm a bad example. Don't look up to me. Okay, so, alcohol, cigarettes, like, if you want to get inspired to do those things, get your inspiration from elsewhere. Don't get your inspiration from me. I'm bad at influencing anybody for anything. Okay, so good or bad. So, just like, I'm not your role model or whatever in that sense. Having said that, like, I just recently kind of got tired of alcohol. My brain's just, like, fatigued with everything. Like I was telling you, I don't most days realize whether I'm a salesman or a academic or a professor or a researcher or a podcaster, and, like, if all of these things are different to begin with. So I just, like, kind of all over the place, and I just got tired of drinking because, like, who needs to numb your mind with alcohol when reality is doing that for you. So I just kind of like lead off it. Now I just drink like Diet Coke. No, what is this? Coke Zero. So same thing. I honestly don't know like what the difference between Diet Coke and Coke Zero is. It's probably different kinds of artificial sweeteners. They're both like 0 calorie artificially sweetened things. Now someone will say, "Oh, that will give you cancer." Good, good. I hope it does. Okay, I hope it does because it'll be good to check out. Um, Now as I say this at the 15-minute mark. I'm aware that I'm getting lost in my own episode and I'm beginning to worry some people. Is he suicidal? Is he okay? Don't send me messages like, are you okay? Because we all know the answer. I'm not and neither are you. Okay? Nobody is okay. Okay? That's where we are. And I don't understand this reverence for life and this thing that you know I take care of myself. I'm gonna do what I do. Okay, if I get unwell, I'll take care of myself. Whatever. Like this is neither here nor there. Anyways, my point being, where was I before I got into this whole I stopped drinking in Coke Zero zone? Um, yeah, whatever. Like I'm bored of alcohol. Alcohol is boring. Everything's boring. It's just what it is. But I think I was talking a little bit about this whole idea that uh, at somewhere down the line we created the system or participated in it where you could just kill people for food and like this week the other story that came out like which is also about food like there's this old Muslim uncle like this dude like clearly he's a buzurg, he's what you'd call an elderly, and he's traveling by some train in Maharashtra, I think near Kalyan, and like these group of young like dudes in their 20s, like clearly they all like again boys adventure activity. They just bullying this old man. They start whacking him around. He was carrying some meat with him. Like I think he's it was I think later on claimed he had buffalo meat. So he was carrying some buffalo meat to his family. Maybe like they wanted to cook. Maybe he had got a good deal on it. Who cares? He's carrying food, and these birds got upset, and they were like, "Oh, you're carrying bovine meat." It's cow meat, and he's like, no, it's buffalo meat, and like they're like, nope, we know you're lying and it's cow meat, and they kind of whack him. um he claims they tried to throw him out of the moving train. They beat him up, they harassed him, and they yelled at him, basically just being a menace. And it's just so matlab terrifying and depressing to kind of see this over and over again. Some episodes ago, I had like this recording with I had the great Annie Zaidi on the show, amazing writer, amazing woman, and I think she was making a very interesting point, and she was talking about how Muslims have been kind of uh, in a way otherized by using the same kind of principles of exclusion which come from caste exclusion. And I think that's fantastic because in a caste society, that's how you other a person. Like what is a caste society? It's a society of segregation. So you do economically boycott, you make them socially segregated, make them live somewhere else, and you separate your food from them, you keep no social relations, you stigmatize all of this, and if there is any sort of crossing over or transgression, you punish them violently, and you create a regime of fear that you can't go and do business or cross over or live there or eat there or whatever. In a caste society, that's how you create social separation. And you create this regime of fear that if you cross that line, there will be violence, there will be explosion. And in many ways, in the way, especially in the last 30 years, especially in the last 15 years and 10 years, um, the way these things that I'm talking about, which are classical caste othering mechanisms, the way they have been sort of homogenized towards targeting Muslims across the country, it's frightening. And the participation of large sections of population. I teach a lot of young people, um, a lot of young savarnas in from international and IB schools. You'll be shocked. Like if you were a critical minded university teacher in a private university in India, and if you had like these rich savarna students coming to your class, you'll be surprised what an enormously large amount of them um, grew up with this thing. It's see for like people like me who are in their 30s, like I'm closer to my 40s, whatever, late 30s, or people who are even in their late 20s now. um you have to kind of readjust. Like there was always this Islamophobic bigotry there was always this deep rooted casteism and caste segregation and in incepted endemic violence. But like it just became state policy, it just became the functioning of the state sometime in the last 10, 11, 12 years, really after 2012, even before Modi had come, like in the last years of the UPA regime, like the kind of way people were talking on social media, on Facebook, and like many of those discourses, those kind of narratives didn't come with Modi, but that kind of discourse bought what was called the Modi wave. The Modi wave was a product of that in that sense. And for people who are slightly older in their late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, or 40s, we kind of saw that pivot. We kind of changed. Like there was something else which was also bigoted and problematic, but then there was like a clear intensification of that, sometime around 2012, 13, 14 ish onwards. But the people who are kids, like the Gen Z, or what do you want to call them, Gen Alpha, like who are 16, 17, 18, 19 now, every year they get younger, right? Like every year I'm going to a first year undergraduate class and there's a 17-year-old, right? So 9 years ago, when I got 17, 18-year-olds in my class, they were like born before the year 2000. Now when I get 18, 17-year-olds in my class, they were born literally like 2003 or something like that, or 2000. What am I saying? What is my math? It's 2024. So a 17-year-old would be, wow, oh, wow, about 2006, 2007, which means they came into their teenage years. They were like 14, 15, 16, around the COVID years, right? Like they grew up, like what we see as an intensification, that was their baseline norm. So you'll be shocked at how many of these international school educated, young, smooth English speaking, BTS listening, anime watching, uh, you know, what's that, like Henley cup carrying, iPhone wielding morons, how many of them like have these very deep set views on what Muslims are and what Dalits are and what caste is, and like it's fascinating to see this in action. Like um, I've mostly taught for the last 9 years in liberal education, liberal arts universities. In liberal arts, basically, all these elite savarnas come and they all have this mythology, like they're deep, interesting young teenagers, right? So they all want to, like, they all think that they have so much potential. Like they're like these paudhas, like you put chlorophyll. Everyone's told them in that only, in international IB school, you have potential, you should. develop yourself. And so all of these kids grow up thinking they're special. They're like special plants which need love and sunlight and chlorophyll. Nobody's really told them that you kind of dumb and basic, all of you, very unoriginal generation. But the point that I was trying to make here is like they all come and they all have like this idea, I want to specialize in this and become that. And you'll be surprised just um like you'll be surprised by the number of times in recent years I've heard people come in, these kids come in and say, I'm interested in becoming an archaeologist. Okay. And when I was younger, like nobody like even a few years ago, forget me when I was younger, even a few years ago I didn't hear the word like I want to be like an archaeologist. Like that was like some history nerd here and there, you'd occasionally get it. But like now a lot of people are saying that. So I started asking, like, why are you interested in archaeology? And turns out they've watched YouTube, and like some clowns are going and putting these history of temples and mythology, and we had this chronology back in ancient India, and like these stupid Telugu filmmakers are making like some Kalki and this and that and Ashwathama and Android drones and virtual reality and dude, like it's messed up these kids. Okay, and by the way, like nobody's talking about this other crisis, which is that half of these IB international curriculum teachers, they themselves are insane. They are English speaking, absolutely like conservative, old. Like they can't tell the difference between critical and conservative. So they think like most of these international schools very heavy on like this puja part, and they're like trying to do some aarti, and parents are being told like there's this news which recently also came, which is also a food story, how in I think Noida, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say Noida, but like it could be anywhere else, literally basically all the schools there, all the like the posh schools, they don't allow non-veg food in the tiffin anymore. So basically, even families which eat non-veg food have to kind of send their kids to school with like you can't send your kid to school anymore with a chicken sandwich because the school is not gonna allow it. This is blatantly illegal, but you've otherized non-veg food, and that's what has happened because non-veg food has sort of become associated with the idea of Muslimness, with the idea of not being a Savarna, upper caste, or religious, or whatever. And so you have all of these people who are like basically training a younger generation of kids who are growing up with these really messed up ideas. They truly start believing that yeah, maybe we had this technology, we had these vibranium ruts which were being pulled by these robotically enhanced horses or some crap, right? And these are the kids like who are in school, like for them this is not like some version of reality that has been amped up. This is basically what they think is the reality because they grew up they're a product of this, they're not a product of a different, even that was problematic era, but like something which is amped up. So you really have to be like, oh my god, like what are we heading into, where in one state like some kid is shot dead because people think he's trading bovines, or this old uncle is trying to just go to his family, and he's basically bullied and like harassed by these like tough men. Clearly they're very very tough men that like they require like 7 8 of these young tough men to gang up on this really old guy. And I read somewhere that they're possibly going to, like they were on the train because they were going to um appear for some exam for the police because that makes perfect sense. Like these guys put these guys in a uniform and then you see what happens. Like it makes perfect sense what they are all about. It's horrific, like when you think about that. Like you s- you see that unfolding. You see the death, you read this news, which is like schools, like elite posh schools, where kids from gated communities, from families which are wealthy Savarna families, where they are driving an XUV 500 or god knows, like some other ghastly vehicle, and like the three ACs in the house, and like they probably have like a ridiculous breed of a dog, like a husky or like a Saint Bernard, because God knows these people are insufferable, and then they will send the kid to school without like a chicken sandwich, because, or forget sending the kid to school without a chicken sandwich, they'll complain to the school. How can the other kid in the class bring biryani for lunch? Like that's literally where we are. Like all of these stories are happening simultaneously. They're all part of the same continuum. And we have to wake up in the morning and pretend that civilizational order has not fallen, right? So, and someone will be like, oh, you're talking about this, what about this other tragedy or whatever, and then there'll be clowns like talking about, oh, actually Brahmins are the new Jews, Brahmins are being persecuted. My god, like um that's the problem, when you enter a postmodern, post fact world, because then you've removed the standards of what outrage is. And if you're going to create outrage over everything, then outrage becomes a performance, and a performance can be performed by anybody. So, like in the same breath that this absolute unreasoning is unfolding, there are also people who are performing outrage while themselves being the aggressor, while themselves being violent. So it's absolutely moronic. Like I was in class, I was trying to talk about um ghettos in cities, and like how if you're from a marginalized caste, or if you're Muslim, in a lot of posh neighborhoods of or every Indian city, you can't really find good housing. Like I'm close to Hyderabad, and like you go to Hyderabad, almost every posh housing has separate lifts for service staff and things of that nature. So I was trying to make a point about this, and then some kid in class is like, well, this is illegal, and like, why are the courts allowing it? Why is the police allowing it? And I was like, okay, like, oh, God bless you, summer child. You truly don't know. Your international curriculum education has truly not prepared you for the horrors that this is. Because so I was telling them that, look, the courts, the police, these institutions, they're all a product also of society. So the same biases that your parents and your uncles and your friends have, those are the same people who get up in the morning and go to these jobs. Like many of them have jobs. Like so it doesn't matter whether you're an IT engineer or like a salesman, professor, or a judge. You're likely to carry these a lot of social biases. And then one student is like, well, they should all go to therapy. And I was like, Are ya Allah. This is another thing, this cult of therapy. Okay. I that's the other thing. Like all these kids, like they want to, like, this is this idea that liberal arts, and in liberal arts they all want to go study psychology, as psychology is this new cult. Like most of these people, the faculty, the therapists, they're mentally unwell themselves. Okay, like don't come at me. I'm tired of this. I'm just this is bizarre. So I was trying to tell them. So this is fascinating that you have somehow made peace with the fact that the politician has biases and doesn't understand things. The judge has biases and doesn't understand things. The cops are crooked because they have biases and they don't understand things. The writers, the activists, the media have biases and don't understand things. But somehow the therapist is the only figure left in society who is free of biases. And then the student is like, yeah, because they are trained to not let biases influence your mindset. I was like, yeah, what the hell are we talking about? Like, how does one respond to this? Like, it's just so bizarre, this idea that there is an objective reality and it is to be found inside the office of a therapist. Like, you go to Instagram and like there are a lot of these mental health influencers. And by the way, here's something funny. All the mental health, all these like Savarna mental health influencers, like 99% of them are Savarna, okay? And I'm talking about them. Like, there's some marginalized caste, people who are trying to do some work with mental health. I know uh, Divya Kandukuri and like people around her, like her group is doing some work. I know a few other people who are trying to do. Like, I'm not talking about them, so don't try to twist this. Don't do that. I'm talking about like all these Savarna mental health influencers. They'll all make these reels. They'll all talk about like depression is real, guys. Mental health is a stigma. They'll all do that, and then all of those profiles have at least one reel which will talk about how there are bad mental health professionals, people who are like really bad or not trained and have their own biases, and beware of them. Like, they're all warning about that. Nobody is actually like thinking like, wait, am I one of those? Like, so who are you warning? If everybody is creating that reel, then like, who are these people? Where do I find them? Like how do I know you're not it? Like, most of these people are mentally unwell themselves. Like, just because you shared two stories on Palestine and one story on like some Gaurakshak lynching and some story on the Calcutta doesn't mean that you are not part of the thing. You are very much part of the thing. You, your family, all of it, very much part of the thing. And don't ask me then how do I fix it, because I don't know how to fix it. We are part of this very messed up thing. The least you can do is acknowledge that you're part of the thing. You're not above the thing. You're not objective than the thing. You're not more critical than the thing. You don't have a deeper insight on the thing just because you're a therapist. No, you're not. You're very much part of this thing. And I'm like, I'm very irritated with this. Like, like and they'll start talking like that also. Like, ever been around like, people who study psychology? They'll be like, oh, this is my friend. He has an attachment disorder, or you're an OCD. Shut up. Shut up. Like, this is literally annoying. Like, you can't do this anywhere else. Like, you're 30 years old. How many times will you watch the season reruns of Big Bang Theory? What's the disorder like that? I'm supposed to take you seriously as a grown ass adult because you watch 17 times Big Bang Theory back to back, and then you like, when you're objective about mental health. What about your mental health? Oh wait, you also are like I'm tired of pretending that these things are not correlated. There are good therapists, I have no doubt, but let's just stop painting everybody with the same brush. That, like, if you are going to do these broad strokes, then like you have to understand that like there is a lot which has gone wrong. How many of these psychology professors teach in IB schools like this, where they are where they're making kids do arti and like telling parents with a straight face, don't send your kid with non-veg food. You're part of it. You're creating this. How many of you are part of these universities and these colleges where these things, these kind of regressive admission practices, hiring practices are normalized? A lot of these universities, the mental wellness counselors like rat on the students. Like, this is a thing. This is not a discovery or a disclosure. In a lot of institutions, I would say in most, if not all of these institutions, the mental wellness, the practitioner is usually ratting on the students, because like some student will go and say, my the person who lives in the next room, they're always like playing music and doing drugs, and it's bothering my mental health. And then this person like, oh, they're doing drugs, and like, lo and behold, like 1 week later, there'll be a raid on that other student's room. How do you think that magically is happening? Like, we know that these universities and these schools and these institutions and these posh residential housing places or these workplaces, they find it very convenient to ignore the government norms or like things when it comes to having functioning sexual harassment, prevention of sexual harassment cells, ICC cells. We know they are very, very okay, like, not creating a caste complaint cell and things like that. But somehow they're all very woke and available in creating mental wellness institutions. Like, there are two things: you'll go into any top private university or a top IB school, and there are two things you will find: CCTV cameras and a mental wellness instructor. What do you think is the correlation? Can I say that there's maybe a correlation? Can I suggest it without offending people, like without like somebody feeling like they have to stand up for the good name of therapist? Please spare me the horror. Remember the thing I said in the beginning of the episode, that lynch mobs are kind of fun? Like go back, listen to that part, think over it, and if you have that urge to like mobilize as a group and like comment in an aggressive way and mean way, just think about that a little bit. Okay, maybe, like, i'm nobody I'm nobody. Okay, and I have time and again in this episode, in this podcast series, over 38, 39 episodes, and like 8 or 9 Patreon episodes, and like the 9 or 10 like other bonus stuff that I've put up, and like 8 or 9 or 10 episodes that I've done for other people, and in the stuff that I tweet, and in the stuff I used to put on Facebook, which I kind of like left, and the stuff that I put on Instagram and so on. Time and again I've said, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I have no claim on being right. So maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I don't understand. Pay attention to this part. Maybe I don't understand what therapy is. Maybe I'm just one of those dumb regressive people who don't understand like how magically objective and rational, and how every counselor has really good practices, and how they are not at all ethically compromised, and how they are not at all part of this machine which has created an unthinking, unfeeling, soulless Gen Z and Gen Alpha generation, like kids who are like, 17, 18, and you look into their eyes and you don't see a soul, and you just see this bottomless gaping abyss like Nietzsche. You stare back and the abyss stares back at you, and you're terrified of what you're seeing in the eyes of these teenagers, because like they truly believe in this world that there was like Hastinapur, and like bows and arrows could unleash nuclear bombs, and they want to be archaeologists because they read or heard that story on a YouTube thing, and they think they'll be the one to discover that. All of this is happening without an iota of fantasy, without this is happening unironically, and all the counselors and mental wellness professionals through whose hands and rooms these kind of people would have passed, and through whose halls and staff rooms where teachers and administrators would have put together regimes from where this is getting constructed. Like, all these counselors had no role to play in it, and they were very objective. And maybe that is the case. Maybe I am mistaken. Maybe I am truly mistaken. What do I know? I just know that like some very interesting things have happened in the last 10 days, and they're not interesting because they have happened, because they've been happening for the last 10 years and actually much longer. An old uncle gets beaten up in a train because some brave boys wanted to set him right because he was carrying bovine meat, and schools are not allowing kids to carry non-veg food. And that clown from Zomato, like some weeks ago, that Goyal Banya, entrepreneur and like visionary, like was talking a few days ago about few months ago about veg only delivery fleets, and thank god Twitter screamed at him. And like I'm pretty certain he's going to bring that idea back in a different way. You watch this, he's not retired. These savarnas, these banyas, they have a big ego. All these banya entrepreneurs think right now that they are the next Elon Musk. They have a big hard on for Elon Musk. Okay, they all like that other clown Bhavish Agarwal with the ponytail, right? He's that pudgy guy. Okay, like that pudgy little pudding Pillsbury dough boy with that ugly little snaky ponytail, Bhavish Agarwal, the founder of Ola. And he's going around talking about like, let's be positive, let's do the revolution, e-vehicles. And he's like, why do we need these international companies? And I will have my own maps. I don't want to pay money to Google Maps. So what if I run a cab aggregator business and maps and traffic data is required? Every time I get into an Ola app, by the way, the projected time to reach is wrong. Okay, ever since they started kind of doing this, like, I'll put on Google Map and I'll put up Ola Map and Google is correct and this guy isn't. Had like this clown will not admit it. He started some AI thing, Kruthrim, and then he's like, yeah, I'm doing AI, we need full stack development in India. Like these, like they all think that they are some kind of AC version of Elon Musk. Like, this is one of the, like, unlike a lot of people, I don't have a problem with Elon, except the fact that more irritating than Elon, and he is a little irritating, more irritating than Elon is actually his fanboys. Like, there's nothing worse than people who aspire to become Elon, who talk like him, who look up to him. Like, what a ruin of masculinity! Like, what era do you live in, right? That you think that this is an archetype of man or an archetype of a human being I want to be. Like, he's a rich dude. Okay, he comes from a family of diamond smuggling white people from apartheid South Africa. He is what he is. It doesn't freaking matter. Okay, take your edge lord personality, find a different vessel. If you want to be an edge lord, young neo fascist, whatever, please find somebody who is at least not associated with the apartheid regime, because the apartheid regime did not give a crap about the fact that you were from India and Savarna. That's what I like about the South African apartheid. They didn't care if you were Brahmin or Banya. They were like, no, no, you're not white. So to us, you're trash. That level of racism, I kind of like admire, because they're like honest and they're like tell you exactly. So it cuts everything. It cuts through everything. So all of these people who kind of like look up to Elon, that's his root, by the way. That's where he comes from. Bhavish, that's where he comes from. Goyal, Bansal, Garwal, all of you, and like every other bloody Savarna engineer in like IIT and MBA, and like you'll do some like dumbass startup in like some city, and you'll start pretending like, oh, you're the next visionary. You're not in it. You're not part of it. You know what you're part of? You're part of a society where people are lynch mobbed because of things like this. You're part of a society where last year nearly 25, 28 people committed suicide in the top IITs. That's what you're part of. You're not part of like this great visionary thing. How can I tell you this? Get your heads out of your fucking housing colony and out of your own ass. That's what you're part of. Where an old uncle gets beaten up in a train because he's carrying meat of like a bovine, and that bothers you. And potential cops, people who are aspiring to become cops, try to throw him out or want to throw him out of a train. That's what you're part of. You're part of IB schools and international schools where parents are being charged tens of thousands of rupees per month to teach students polished English and all this sophisticated, like, PPT, smart classroom. And all the kid wants to do is like listen to more YouTube videos about like Brahmastra and this and that and want to become an archaeologist, apparently, because that's what the thing an archaeologist will do is they will dig up palaces and the battlefield and the astra and the shastra and the remnants of chariots from Kurukshetra. That's what you're part of. You morons. You've ruined the society. You've ruined it. You've broken it. And then, like, like, then, like, there is people like Sudhir Mishra, friend of the show. My God. One of my absolutely, like, in my one of my first earlier episodes, I went on this rant on Hazaro Khwaishe Aisi. God, that movie is insufferable. But more than that movie, everybody who likes that movie is even more insufferable. Like Hazaro Khwaishe Aisi is like Elon Musk. Like if you like that movie, please introspect because you're likely to be an insufferable human being. Okay, truly speaking, it's a terrible movie. It's badly acted. It's badly put together. And that song by Shubha Mudgul or whoever is truly like it's mid. It's mid, as the kids would say. It's mid. It's mediocre. It's okay. It's not mediocre. It's okay. The film that's the best thing I can say about it. It's okay. Okay, Chitrangana sings and whatever. Like Chitrangana Singh looks hot. Okay, they're hot people. KK Menon, young shiny Ahuja, before he went and sexually assaulted or tried to sexually assault his domestic help, like they're all in that movie. They're all kind of hot people. They do a decent job in front of the camera. It's badly edited, badly paced, like every one of Sudhir Mishra's films. Can you guys really stop saying that film is good? Because this idiotic filmmaker has got it into his head that he's like some last living author, last living cinematic maestro in Khatriwood or Bollywood. He's just got it in it. And when this kid gets killed in Haryana, and like, there's, I think, Varun Grover, or I think it was Varun Grover, tweeted, like, God, like, this is terrible. And something he said, like, like, they chased this kid and they killed him on the suspicion of, the fact that they thought that he was, trading or whatever, like, transporting bovine and things like that. When he tweets something to that effect, I don't remember the exact tweet, don't come at me. This clown Sudhir Mishra is like, I made a movie on this, it's called an Afsos or whatever, and he tweets it. That's a tweet in the middle of a tragedy where people are trying to kind of wrap their, like, I made a movie on this, like, oh God, you clown. And then, like, the some losers will come and respond under it, and it was a great movie, sir, and then he's retweeting them. Like nobody around him has said that, maybe this is a little, what's the word, insane, that maybe this is not the time to plug your dumb movie. This is not the time where you start saying, I told you so, I watched my movie, I had said something like this would happen. What is next? Like, you make a movie on nuclear annihilation, and then when the Third World War nuclear bombs go around, you're like, I told you so. Like, people are dying, they're crying, oh my God, nuclear annihilation, nuclear winter is here, the sun is blocked out, like, our species is about to end, there's radioactive fallout everywhere, and this clown is like, I made a movie about this. My God, you fucking clown. You absolute fucking clown. This is the society I'm supposed to wake up in the morning and take seriously. This is what we've built, where you're taking people from a particular caste or marginalized group, and you're sending them down into the gutters, and when they die there, they're like, oh yeah, that's a tragedy. And then, like, you send like satellites to moon, and I'm supposed to feel proud of that because, like, you'll be like, oh, don't connect the two. Why the hell not? Why won't I connect the two? Like how can you not connect the two? And if I start saying these things, somebody will be like, you should go into therapy. Yeah, that'll fix me. That's what I need. That's what I need. I need more therapy in my life. The last therapist that I went to was like, can I write a case study on you? It's like they're like, I don't know. Like I'm apparently like so insane that they need to do case studies on me or some shit. And then she was telling me that, yeah, you should. Like, I'm going to give you a list of things which will help you ground yourself. And and they all have this like very irritating tone. I understand you're very agitated. So after this, and I'm still not able to get that tone, that very annoying smog. Like it's like a ground neutral tone. It's like an AI speaking to you in a flat voice, because apparently that's what they need to do. They're like, so I understand this has been a very agitating session for you. So you might be feeling strong feelings right now. So you should go and ground yourself a little bit, have a cold glass of water, put some water on your on your face, and next time maybe go for a walk. And you come across a tree, you should take your hand and touch the tree. It'll help you ground and center yourself a little bit. Like they'll talk like this. And I was laughing at her. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? And what are you saying? And then she's like, um, I understand that what I'm suggesting is not resonating with you. You are the expert of your life. I'm just here listening to you. No shit. And I'm paying you to listen to me, and you're telling me to go for a walk and touch a tree because I lost my cool and I think Sudhir Mishra is an idiot and Hazara Khwaishein Aisi is a dumb movie, and Bhavish Agarwal should cut his hair, and Zomato should like really stop behaving like it's a company run by children, like grown men children, and people should like stop pretending that like caste death, student suicide, endemic gendered violence, sexual assault violence, which by the way is also like so deeply linked to caste, so deeply linked to caste. I'm not even opening that whole box. Okay, that's like you just can't do that. Like you can't go down that route in like 2 minutes. But like uh, you know, I'm apparently like I need to go touch a tree because Sudhir Mishra is a great filmmaker and Bhavish Agarwal's hair looks nice and Zomato is fine and sexual violence and stuff like that just happens and institutions are like whatever they are and student suicides happen, caste violence is endemic, and old uncles will get beaten up on a train because like this just happens. This just happens. You can't get upset over everything. Be positive. Be positive. And I'm not even talking about like like this other economy of violence and morality that people will rage on. Like this society, I have to wake up in the morning and pretend like my favorite dystopia now. I think the only thing I do now is I don't read the news as much. I don't like I don't even tweet so much. Like I'm just a little out of it. The only thing I do is I go on LinkedIn, and in that world of LinkedIn, like it's the perfect dystopia. Like you're seeing all of this. You're seeing the genocide in Gaza unfolding in front of you, the war in Ukraine, where the Western Empire, the US Empire, is egging the Ukrainians on and trying to like goad Russia into God knows what, like a third world war or whatever. Because if the Russians really lose it and if they start dropping like the big bombs, because remember, they have nukes. They've just not dropped them. And I don't know what the US and NATO thinks will happen if they like keep supplying Ukraine weapons and now Ukrainians have invaded Russia in Kursk. So now they've brought the fight into Russian territory. And then people are like, no, this is moral war. Like, is it? Is it really? Is it? It has nothing to do with the expansion of NATO. It has nothing to do with, Western interests in hemming Russians in. And like you kind of you want like Russia to be bogged in a 20-year war so that the US arms and armaments industry can keep supplying billions of dollars of weapons into Ukraine. It has nothing to do with that. It's a moral war. That's what it is. It's a war with like no room for compromise. You're not gonna tell Zelensky that come to the table, let's do a deal. You fought a good fight. No, 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 no. It's a moral war. It must go on till either there's a regime collapse in Russia or Ukraine gets nuked. So that's happening. Been happening for like 2 years in the background, and like meanwhile Palestine is being literally bulldozed and rolled over, and like every day, like against my will, I'm seeing pictures of like bombed out babies, and I'm seeing all of that and horrors in my own nation as if they are not enough. And you're seeing like the chief minister of Assam make like funny statements, and in North India all of this crap is unfolding, like and people and YouTubers are going and they're talking about like all of this crap. And every day like some new baba or pandit is dropping. Like the latest one is this like fat kid. Okay. And I know someone's gonna, oh, you're fat shaming a kid. Like, have you seen this kid? He's an idiot. Like this rotund little thing. Like he's hamming it up. Either that or that kid is really unwell mentally. I mean, he needs a therapist. Okay, and like they all come every day. There's a new baba. There is a new kind of a gig in town, and then you go on LinkedIn and everyone is talking about like I did this and this at my work and I learned from this leadership and teamwork, and together we build like 3000 points of sustainability, and I have 4000 points of leadership. Like, what the crap is going on? And then people will come and comment. It's not just that they're putting it, people are going to come and comment under it, well done, very inspiring, congratulations, looking forward to more. Like, that world exists inside this world, and is has supposed to make all make sense. Jesus Christ. And then Sudhir Mishra will come and like I'm like, why just Sudhir Mishra? I think like every like when the Calcutta the doctor, when that Calcutta doctor sexual assault and murder, rape and murder case happened, like this one, what's his name, like that clown Ayushman Khurana, he came and he read a poem like main ladki. Like, what narcissism, what social disconnect these people live in. And if for a second you think you are different from Ayushman Khurana or Sudhir Mishra or Bhavish Agarwal or any of these clowns, if you think you or people around you or your friend, nahi, hum critical hai, we get it. Everybody else is like them. I am different. Then you don't get it. You're part of it. We are all part of it. I'm part of it. And that's the moral discomfort that you have to live with. It's a moral burden. It's a burden on the soul. We have to live with it. It's not something you can fix. It's not something you can do something about in a meaningful way. No, sharing 27 stories on your Instagram is not solving crap. Okay? Just because you do one fundraiser here and there doesn't absolve you of this guilt from your soul. If you're doing these things, you want to do these things, good for you. Good for you. Okay, more power to you. Keep doing it. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm saying it doesn't fix the imbalance. It'll still exist, and you have to live with it. And everybody in this era is just not ready to live with this violent burden on the soul or pretend there isn't anything. No wonder it's a generation of people going insane watching like Big Bang Theory 17 times back to back and then going for a walk and touching a tree or pretending to. That also you can't do alone. Because then you'll take a picture of touching a tree and taking a picture and be like, like whatever. Or like a sunset and be like, sometimes the sunset makes you think, God, God, we need a new plague. Hey, you finished the whole episode. Well done. I can't believe you can tolerate my voice for so long. But in case you liked what you heard, you might consider also joining for the exclusive episode that I do for my paying subscribers, because that show gets into slightly edgier topics and I don't really want to put it out in the public domain. It's available on the Patreon as well as on YouTube through the join option. And in case you don't want to drop extra money, I completely understand. Please keep listening to my regular show. I'm grateful as ever. There's a buy me a coffee link in case you want to drop some love. Otherwise, just have a nice day. Stay being awesome. Bye bye.